Why do some men maintain absolute control in their relationships, while others end up psychologically crushed by the women they love? You see it everywhere. One man makes a decision, and his woman eagerly follows. Another man can't even choose what to have for dinner without negotiating with his girlfriend like he's asking permission from his mother. Both men started with the same confidence, the same masculine energy, the same natural leadership that attracted their women in the first place. The difference isn't luck, and it's not about finding a submissive woman. It's about understanding one dark psychological truth that destroys 95% of relationships, because it reveals how women systematically steal power from men without them even realizing it's happening. Most men believe relationships are partnerships of equals. They think love means compromise and making her happy at all costs. What they don't understand is that every relationship is a power struggle, and the one who controls the frame controls everything. The frame isn't just confidence. It's the authority to dictate the terms, structure, and direction of the entire relationship. The one who holds the frame makes the rules. Everyone else follows them. Here's the brutal reality. Women don't want equality. They want to submit to a man they can respect. But if you're not strong enough to maintain dominance, they will take it from you, and then they will despise you for being weak enough to let them. Philosophers have long observed that power isn't given, it's taken. And once someone demonstrates they can be controlled, they will be controlled completely. Think about it honestly. When you first met your girlfriend or wife, who was in charge? You approached her. You made the plan. You decided where to go. She followed your lead. But somewhere along the way, that dynamic flipped. Now she makes the social plans. She controls the budget. She decides what behavior is appropriate. She became the authority figure, and you became the one seeking approval. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens through thousands of small surrenders. Every time you give in to avoid conflict, every time you change your plans to accommodate her emotions, you are teaching her that you can be controlled. The genius of female power acquisition is that it disguises itself as love and care. She doesn't demand control directly. Instead, she creates emotional situations where surrendering power feels like the loving, mature thing to do. Women have perfected a 3-stage system for establishing dominance that most men never see. I call it emotional distress, guilt, threat. Each stage is designed to break down male resistance. Stage 1. Emotional distress. Pity. She creates emotional stress and presents herself as the victim of your unreasonable behavior. I just wanted to spend time together, but I guess your friends are more important than me. The message is clear. If you loved me, you would sacrifice what you want to make me feel better. Most men fall for this immediately. But this isn't love. It's manipulation disguised as vulnerability. Stage 2. Guilt. Shame. When pity doesn't work, she escalates to guilt. Now, your behavior is evidence of your moral failure as a man. A real man would want to make his woman happy. Maybe you're just not ready for a serious relationship. Guilt attacks your identity. Most men will do anything to escape this psychological torture, including surrendering on decisions they should never have compromised on. Stage 3. Threat. Anger. If both pity and guilt fail, she deploys anger, but not the explosive kind. Female anger is cold, calculated. The silent treatment, withdrawal of affection, threats to leave, or rethink the relationship. This isn't emotional expression. It's a psychological confrontation designed to make your life so unbearable that compliance becomes preferable to conflict. But here's the most insidious part. Women don't choose these tactics consciously. They are biologically programmed to test male strength through increasing levels of pressure. From an evolutionary perspective, a man who can be easily controlled is a man who cannot protect her or her offspring. So she constantly, unconsciously, tests you, hoping you'll pass. But when you fail these tests by giving in, she doesn't respect you more. She loses attraction because you've proven you're not the strong leader she needs. This creates a psychological trap. The more you try to make her happy by surrendering control, the less happy she becomes. The more you sacrifice your needs for hers, the more she despises you. The one who needs less controls more. In relationships, this means the one who is more willing to walk away holds all the power. The moment you make a woman your primary source of happiness, you have lost. Here is the dark pattern that plays out in 99% of modern relationships. First comes attraction through leadership. You take charge, make decisions, and she follows, rewarding you with respect. This is the initial, healthy impulse that creates the attraction. Then comes emotional dependence and framed surrender. This is a slow process where a man begins to value her comfort above his mission or principles. At this stage, you start caring more about her feelings than your own foundations, and you actively seek her approval. Every small surrender seems insignificant, but together they completely destroy his authority. It all ends with a reversal of roles and the inevitable collapse of the relationship. Now she makes the decisions, and you ask for permission. She may not have wanted this power, but she was forced to take it because you gave it away. In the end, she lost attraction because you proved you weren't the leader she thought you were. The dynamic is irreversibly broken, and the respect that held it all together is gone. Most men don't recognize this pattern because each individual surrender seems reasonable. It's just one evening. It's just one decision about money. But psychological dominance is built on accumulated precedent. Every such concession becomes the new normal, the legal foundation for the next, larger demand. What started as a small compromise quickly turns into a system where you are obligated to comply. If you recognize these patterns, I urge you to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Your engagement helps ensure these conversations continue. The algorithms respond to your participation, and your support allows these ideas to reach the men who need them most. Your support isn't just a number, it's a signal that these hard truths must be heard. The tragedy isn't that women seek dominance, it's that men are so unprepared for this battle. Women constantly evaluate your strength through what psychologists call compliance testing. This is instinctive behavior. Every request she makes is, in fact, a test. Every emotional reaction is a probe designed to measure your resolve. They are instinctively looking for a rock their emotional waves can crash against. When they find only pliable sand, their respect disappears with the tide. The man who consistently fails these tests by prioritizing her emotions over his own judgment loses her respect. The man who passes these tests by maintaining his frame earns her loyalty. Passing these tests doesn't mean being cruel. It means making decisions based on your own judgment, not her emotional state. It means saying no when you mean no, even if it temporarily upsets her. Women don't want men who never upset them. They want men who are strong enough to upset them when it's necessary to stay on course. Women don't want men who never upset them. They want men who are strong enough to upset them when it's necessary. This is why happy wife, happy life is such destructive advice. It teaches men to place a woman's feelings above leadership. But relationships built on this foundation inevitably crumble because no one can respect someone they can completely control. A woman who gains full control actually finds herself trapped. She becomes responsible for a man she can no longer desire. Her biological programming searches for strength, but finds a vacuum she is forced to fill, which leads to contempt. The beginning of the end in most relationships is the moment a man first decides to avoid conflict rather than defend his authentic position. This moment occurs when he becomes emotionally invested and afraid of losing her. This fear transforms him from a leader into a supplicant. He stops being the man she followed and becomes someone who follows her mood. The fear operates through a lie. If I don't give her what she wants, she'll leave me. But this logic is reversed. She is with you because of the man you were when you didn't give her everything she wanted. It was your integrity and loyalty to your principles that created the security she now instinctively seeks. Here is the psychological principle that saves relationships. The one who is more willing to end the relationship controls the relationship. A man who has built a life so compelling that her presence is desirable, but not necessary, cannot be controlled by fear. This psychological independence is what creates lasting attraction. This isn't indifference, it's integrity, which is more attractive than any temporary compliance. The modern relationship landscape has convinced men that compliance equals love and that boundaries are selfish. But compliance without boundaries isn't love, it's enablement. And enablement breeds contempt. Real love requires the strength to disappoint people when necessary. Women test men's boundaries because they need to know those boundaries are real. A man with flexible principles is a man who cannot be trusted. He demonstrates that his values are circumstantial, meaning he cannot be relied upon in a real crisis. Her instincts scream that such a man cannot protect her or the family when it truly matters. The workplace provides a perfect analogy. Imagine an employee who challenges every decision, defies every policy, and threatens to quit. Such an employee would be fired immediately because his behavior undermines the entire structure. But in relationships, men tolerate this exact behavior from women because they've been programmed to believe love means accepting disrespect. They allow their authority to be undermined daily, wondering why their relationships become more difficult. This creates a vicious cycle. The more he yields, the more she tests him, and the less authority he is left to defend. He becomes not the leader of the family, but another child she has to manage. Respect isn't earned through compliance. It's earned through consistent demonstration of value and competence. Think about how women react to authority figures in professional settings versus personal relationships. The same woman who would never dream of challenging her boss's decisions will relentlessly test her boyfriend's boundaries. Why? Because she knows her boss has real power. This reveals a crucial truth. Women do not test men they respect. They only test men they suspect are weak enough to fail. The very fact that she is challenging your authority is her unconscious attempt to find out if you are a real leader or just playing the part. She desperately wants you to pass this test, so she can finally relax and trust your leadership. Her testing is not an attack, it's a desperate search for certainty. Women's testing behavior intensifies during periods of stress or change of move, a job change, financial difficulties. All these situations activate her biological program to assess your ability to handle challenges. This dynamic explains why women often seem to create problems during otherwise peaceful times. They aren't being malicious. They are conducting quality assurance testing. They need to be sure that your strength isn't just a facade that will crumble in the first real storm. The solution isn't to become a tyrant. It's to become someone whose leadership is so valuable that others choose to follow it voluntarily. This requires developing a life and a mission that make your decisions worthy. A man obsessed only with the relationship has nothing larger to offer. This mission provides a gravitational pull, a center of meaning that exists independent of her approval. It is this non-negotiable purpose that she finds herself wanting to join, not control. You must become so comfortable with solitude that companionship must add genuine value, not just fill an emotional void. Transformation requires recognizing that emotional discomfort is not an emergency. When she is upset about a decision you made, you don't need to change the decision. You need to let her experience her emotions without making them your responsibility. Her emotions are hers, and your decisions are yours. Confusing these two concepts is the root of surrender. You can understand why she is upset, empathy, without accepting that her being upset means you did something wrong, responsibility. Most men fail this test. They prioritize short-term harmony over long-term respect. But short-term peace, bought at the price of your authority, is the most expensive and unprofitable deal in a relationship. You are trading a moment of quiet for a future of contempt. True leadership means absorbing that temporary discomfort because you are focused on a long-term vision for both of you. The control women establish isn't a conscious conspiracy. It's biological programming responding to male weakness. This creates a cruel irony. The more a man tries to make a woman happy by surrendering his power, the unhappier she becomes, because her biology is telling her she's with the wrong man. She instinctively feels unsafe when she is with someone she can break. A woman who controls her relationship is often the most miserable person in it. She wanted a leader but got a follower. This dynamic explains why 70–80% of divorces are initiated by women. They are leaving because they've lost attraction to the men who gave them everything they asked for. The compliance that men mistakenly believe is kindness is, in fact, a loud signal of fundamental weakness to her. She isn't leaving the man who was mean to her. She is leaving the man who was too nice to be strong. Her departure is the final, desperate act of a woman who needs a leader but was given a follower. Their psychological pressure isn't cruelty, it's biology. They need to know the man they're with is strong enough. From this perspective, her resistance to your leadership isn't disrespect. It's quality control. She is checking if your authority is authentic. If a man fails this check, her instincts classify him as incapable of ensuring survival and safety. But here is where most men make their fatal mistake. They approach these tests with the goal of making the testing stop, rather than the goal of passing the tests. A man who truly understands female psychology isn't offended by being tested. He values the opportunity to demonstrate his strength. He knows her resistance is due diligence. He doesn't take it as a personal insult, but rather as a necessary stage for establishing genuine, long-term respect. The counterintuitive truth about frame battles is that winning them makes them less frequent over time. When you consistently demonstrate that your authority is non-negotiable, she stops testing it so often. But when you occasionally give in, you reset the cycle. This creates a grueling pattern, intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that makes gambling addictive. When your frame collapses unpredictably, her testing behavior becomes compulsive. She keeps pushing because past experience has shown her that a breakthrough is possible, even if it's rare. This unpredictability makes her insecure and forces her to constantly check reality to see what she can lean on. Consistency and frame maintenance aren't just about winning individual battles. It's about the cessation of the confrontation itself. It creates an environment where her energy is redirected from challenging your leadership to supporting it. The final irony is that the women who fight hardest against male leadership are often the ones who most desperately want to submit to it, but they can only submit to strength that proves its value. Authority that is merely claimed, but not backed up by consistent action under pressure, is worthless. This is why frame battles intensify at the beginning of relationships. The man who passes these tests earns her lifelong devotion. This isn't slavish obedience, but a deep respect, voluntarily given to one who has proven his reliability. The man who fails them earns her lifelong contempt. He becomes a living reminder of the compromise she made, and she will resent both him and herself for it. He often writes this off as her ingratitude, not realizing that he himself created the conditions for this contempt by failing the fundamental tests. The choice is always yours. You can continue seeking approval from someone whose biology is designed to test your worthiness, or you can become so worthy that the tests become irrelevant. This is the path of building yourself, your mission, and your life to such a degree that your presence itself becomes the prize, not a bargaining chip. One path leads to psychological slavery disguised as a partnership. This is a slow fading, where you lose not only her respect, but also your own. The other leads to authentic leadership that makes genuine love possible. This is not a love based on need and approval, but a union based on mutual respect and admiration for strength. The difference isn't luck. It's a fundamental decision about who you choose to be every day. It's the courage to maintain your frame, regardless of the emotional consequences. It is this courage that separates the men who are admired from those who are ultimately despised. If you are ready to choose the path of leadership and understand these complex dynamics more deeply, subscribe to the Psycheria channel. See you in the new videos.